crying harder. Crying harder. Trump is your president.
That $100 million Fire Aid concert, guess what? Sue Pascoli over at Circling the News and her deep dive investigative journalism discovered that the second round of $50 million funding, guess who took a Fire Aid grant? Let me tell you so you don't have to think too hard. Gavin Newsom and his Cal Volunteers office took a Fire Aid grant. So that's cool. We'd like to know how much you took and exactly what you did with the money for Altadena and Pacific Palisades. And I mean dollar for dollar what you did with it. Thank you.
So Gavin Newsom has been caught stealing donations that should be going towards the fire victims for his own personal political fund. Let me show you what I found. So Gavin Newsom put out this website to combat misinformation called CaliforniaFireFacts.com. And when I went to take a look at it, it leads to Gavin Newsom's own website. And there's a place where I could donate. Now I'm looking closely at this. Look what you're seeing, right? Where is the donations actually going? Now it says it's supposed to go directly towards the victims, but check out who's managing this fund. Take a look at that, right? Who is processing this money? It's Act Blue. If you don't know what Act Blue is a political PAC for Democratic candidates. So in fact, any money that we donate in this so-called fund, a portion of it is going towards Democratic political campaigns. I didn't want to believe it, but this is our governor. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys soon.
We are going to fight for all Angelenos, regardless of when they got here, whether they have papers or not. We are a city of immigrants, and this impacts hundreds of thousands of Angelenos.
Flashback.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today?
I didn't care about the structure. I just cared about my memories, my baby's pictures, my mom's pictures. I know I have memories in my head, but that's where I lived, and I have nothing but with the shoes I have on, and thanks to this, I have nothing. It was just a chimney.
What's next for you right now?
Hotel to hotel until I get some assistance. I have nothing but my dogs and me. But one thing I do have is God, my church right here where I'm at right now. I got food, I got blankets, I got food for my dogs. I got everything that I need for this town right now. And I didn't mean to do this right now. I swear I wanted to be cute, but I can't.
It's okay. Oh my God, let me ask you.
A few moments later.
In our community development programs, there's resources there in our family resource centers, but we also are going to have a reinstitution of the Angeleno card, something that Mayor Garcetti started during COVID, that will actually provide cash assistance to people. Because, you have people who don't want to leave their homes, who are not going to work, and they are in need of cash. I have met with family members who they needed two incomes in order to make the rent. Well, one income was lost in a raid when someone was detained, and this woman with her children now is concerned that she might face being evicted and being homeless. And so it's that type of emergency assistance, and we're fortunate that there's a lot of philanthropic partners who have contributed, and many more I hope that will join in and contribute.
What? Mr. President, do you think that putting these troops in there and this Democratic mayor is not necessarily embracing, at least publicly, and what you did in Los Angeles, despite that the governor didn't want it and the mayor didn't want it, you sent in backups, Marines, and National Guard. Do you think that might force Democratic cities to crack down on crime so you don't have to?
Yeah, the good politicians, the smart ones, the sane people will, and the other ones will go out of their way to try and show them that I'm wrong on crime. Look, this is another, they call them 80-20s. I think it's 100-0. But they're going to have to handle it the way they want. I'm there to help. But if I see a city going bad, I said it last time. Last time, I went right by every perfect little edict and rule, and I'd let the governors run their stuff, and they'd run it into the ground. I had that wacko in Minnesota. You saw what happened in Minneapolis, and If I didn't send in the troops, you wouldn't have Minnesota. Well, you wouldn't have Minneapolis standing today. You saw how bad it was. But I sent in the troops very late because he wouldn't do it. He wasn't. The whole city was burning down. That was the wacko that ran for vice president.
Governor Walz.
Yeah, he was a real beauty. But again, I said, if I ever do this again, this is what I was thinking about it. I said, I'm going to act before the fact. I'm not going to act after the fact. And, you see what they did to Portland. You see, it's not going to happen this time. Now, Gavin Newsom wouldn't have a Los Angeles stand. We have the Olympics coming. That was the part of my thinking there, too. We have the Olympics coming. He just lost 25,000 houses to fires that shouldn't have happened. It was only because he didn't allow water to come into that part of Los Angeles or, frankly, into California because he cut off the water. They sent it out to the Pacific Ocean. But I overrode him. After the fires, I overrode him, and they have water coming down. They should be allowing more. We're going to go into that next. But Gavin Newsom, if he would have allowed the water, you wouldn't have had a fire. But I said, if I don't send people in, you're not going to have a city for the Olympics. We have the Olympics coming.
And the World Cup.
You already have 24,000 houses. And by the way, they're not able to get the permits for them. The federal government with Lee Zeldin, who's fantastic, the federal government got all the permits and gave them all the federal permits necessary. They can build their houses. But the state and the city are not getting them the permits after that.
And I know that for a fact because I know people out there, only 1% of the permits has been given. It's an embarrassment, and they're getting away with it, which is sickening. I want to talk about California.
You know what they want to do? They want to build low-income housing. They want to take away some of the sites that are owned by people and build low-income housing.
You can't do it.
Destroy the whole beauty of that area. I was there right after the fire, very closely to immediately after the fire. As soon as I felt it was the right time, but immediately. And I met the people. They were all standing in front of their sites. There were literally ashes. The steel was wrapped up in balls. It was like a blowtorch because of the winds. And I went there and I saw every person on 2 or 3 streets I went to. Every family was in front of their house with a yellow cord. You can't go on it. And they said, we want to start immediately, sir. I said, why don't you start? They won't let us. I gave them the federal permits almost immediately. That's the hardest permit to get, by the way. And they still don't have their permits.
And you told Mayor Bass, let them do it. And she said she would. She wants them to be safe. He goes, they know how to be safe. It was, to me, it was one of your finest moments because she didn't do it. You were great.
She said, we'll get them over a 2-year period. Do you remember that?
Yep.
I said, 2 years? You mean 2 days?
Mr. President, I lost all my stuff there in a fire in Malibu in the 90s, and they still hadn't rebuilt it 7 years later.
What?
But I want to talk about Gavin Newsom.
Incompetent.
Yeah,
You have an incompetent governor. He's an incompetent governor, and the mayor is grossly incompetent. And that worries me because we have the Olympics going there.
Well, Gavin Newsom's taking you on. He thinks that's his best path to being the next president of the United States, in my view. And he posted on X, he gave you a warning instead of Governor Abbott, saying that if you allow Governor Abbott to go through with his gerrymander, he's going to do that in California. He posted this, I guess trying to take the Trump approach. Donald Trump, Taco Trump, as many call him.
Dramatic fashion, Governor Gavin Newsom pulling a 5-alarm fire, not for the burning of the Palisades.
An evacuation order was coming. It was popping out over the phone, and I'm trying to get my residents out, and everybody got to Sunset Boulevard, and it was just gridlocked for a good hour. It went 3 or 4 car lengths, and I had my phone on in my car, and I'm sitting there watching Governor Newsom and 8 other politicians talk about how prepared they are and follow the evacuation orders, and we're gridlocked. And there's no police at all doing traffic management. So people are sitting in their cars. I actually thought we were going to burn up because we had fire going over our heads. It was also near that area where they had to bulldoze the cars. They were telling people to leave their cars, then they bulldozed their cars out of the way. It's outrageous, the lack of coordination and planning that went on. And to watch those guys on the beach all congratulating themselves. I mean, city council people that really had no information to share, but just getting their face on cameras. Everybody was really upset. We finally got out. Once the police got here and started moving traffic, everything moved and we were able to get out.
We saw the aftermath of that. A lot of people just left their cars behind. Talk to us about what it was like. You were there.
Yeah, well, there was a big decision. Do I stay in my car and maybe burn to death or choke from, smoke inhalation, or do I run? And I was able to do U-turn, and I went back to my building. I figured, you know what, I'd rather die in my building than in a car. And we had a pool there, too, I figured I could get into. But, they kept ordering, leave, leave, leave. Oh, and here's another thing. I called 911, LAPD. they answered the phone, and I said, you need to get some police officers down here. I mean, because I'm a former journalist, so I kind of know how to get things done. I said, you need to get police down here to manage traffic. And she said, why? I said, because we're being evacuated from the Pacific Palisades. She says, there's no evacuation order to Pacific Palisades. I says, oh, really? Is that why my phone's been blowing up for 15 minutes? I said, there's a fire. She says, there's no fire there. And we were, I mean, literally gridlocked on Sunset, and that was after I waited for 5 minutes on hold. So, you know, this city needs some work.
So you were able to get out safely?
I was able to get out safely.
What are you doing back here today?
I want to go see if the building's still standing, but I can't get through. It's too bad up there on Sunset. There's fire coming across both sides, so, you know, I don't think I can get through there.
Real fire in the state of California doesn't demand the attention of Gavin Newsom. Instead, he's pulled the 5-alarm fire for democracy.
What?
We tried to play by a higher set of standards and rules with our independent redistricting, and we believe in that. We are talking about emergency measures to respond to what's happening in Texas. We will pick up 5 seats with the consent of the people.
Consent of the people. I'm going to write that down. Remember that phrase. Consent of the people. Political talent is an interesting concept. It certainly exists. In this job, I've come across many politicians. Some are charming, some are not. Some have rhetorical skill, some stumble over their words. Some you are simply drawn to, some you are repelled. Fraudulence is a political talent. The ability to lie is a skill. And it's once been pulled off by the governor of California. But much like our conversation earlier this week with rising star Texas Democrat James Tallarico, fraudulence will eventually be exposed. And with every breath he utters, Gavin Newsom's fraudulence becomes more clear, his political talent more barren. Consent of the people. A Politico poll shows California voters back independent congressional maps, meaning they prefer an independent panel draw the House district lines by nearly a 2-to-1 margin. How will Gavin Newsom, with a special session, redraw the California map to be more gerrymandering than it already exists with the consent of the people? He will try to do it by setting a 5-alarm fire and pointing out Texas.
This is the difference between what's happening in Texas and what's happening here in California. We didn't receive a phone call from the President of the United States to then quietly go in the back room and start drawing maps and legislatively try to jam them through against the consent of the people. We're doing precisely the opposite. We're working through a very transparent, temporary, and public process. That's who we are. We're putting the maps on the ballot, and we're giving the power to the people.
Something that seems to have escaped the attention of Democrats. Texans have, in overwhelming majorities, voted for Republicans. Americans have handed the levers of power through the democratic process in the House, the Senate, and the presidency to Republicans. Their policies are not popular. Democrats cannot govern with the consent of the people. And now that their techniques are being mimicked in some place like Texas to draw more favorable lines, they are the ones setting, much like the fires in Palisades, a 5-alarm fire. Well, Newsom's fans weren't the only one at that afternoon event. Border Patrol agents spotted outside the rally as well, arresting suspected illegal immigrants. This reflects the consent of the people, restoring law and order on the streets of California. The governor blasting the move, though, he wrote on X, Trump's private army is illegally on private property. We will not be intimidated by this weak little man. Well, he wrote that. It's not lost on people. He's LARPing President Trump. And his office has been doing so now for a couple of days. Take a look at some of these posts. They wrote, "Make the maps great again. Big, beautiful rally today. Thank you for your attention to this matter." It's like a college sophomore trying to take English 101. They still haven't yet found their voice. So the only thing he knows how to do is copy. I guess imitation is the greatest form of flattery. But while Newsom focuses on not his state and not the crisis in the economy or literally in the hills of California, and instead focuses on national politics, his state is still reeling from the effects of the LA fires. And many are still looking for accountability.
I had meetings today with the type of people that can ensure what happened in my town won't ever happen again. This is America. We fight. Justice is coming.
So that right there, that's reality star Spencer Pratt. He lost his home in January in the LA fires, and now he's on a mission to find answers. He has said he knows things now, things that should terrify Gavin Newsom. Joining me now is Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Charlie, it's great to see you here today. As always, you're an astute observer of politics. It's really something to see what's happened to the Democrat Party. Now, we've had that conversation, but there's something uniquely, such a repellent about Gavin Newsom and now what he's trying to do in California.
That's right. And just to reiterate your phenomenal open, Proposition 11 was voted on by the fake gerrymandering out of the hands of politicians and into this independent commission. Now, it's far from perfect. Some of the maps in California are a little bit creative, to say the least, a little circuitous. But however, it did have some sort of a spirit that the people of California did not want politics involved in the drawing of their maps. In fact, a recent poll shows that 64% of Californians do not want to see Gavin Newsom do this. But Gavin Newsom needs to dig himself out of a hole. This is what it's all about. This is about Gavin Newsom's failed podcast strategy. Gavin Newsom had a podcast strategy, which I was the first guest on, where he was going to try to moderate himself and try to do the bro-y podcast culture, of which he was really bad at. He didn't know his facts, his figures. He didn't really know how to deal with facts like myself and other people. And he thought he was going to be welcomed in as the 2028 Democrat candidate. But the Democrat Party, they do not want someone to start a podcast. They want a quote-unquote fighter against Donald Trump. All Gavin Newsom cares about is being president of the United States. That's all he cares about. That's all that this is. This is a 2028 strategy. And so Gavin Newsom is going to try to call a special session to overturn the will of the voters. I thought it was all about democracy, right? It's not democracy. It's about oligarchy. And the baseline component of all of this is that the people of California, Republican and Democrat, socialist and libertarian, they don't want politicians involved in the drawing of the maps. Gavin Newsom does not care because he wants to be president more than listen to the voters of California.
Charlie, you remind me of something there. I had forgotten that you were the first guest into Gavin Newsom's attempt to podcast. You know, I talked about his fraudulence is so transparent. What was he like in person, Charlie? When you sat there, is he capable of being authentically charming? Does he have the mannerisms of it mastered, or is it exposed over a period of time? What was it like being around Gavin Newsom?
I mean, he can pass a lie detector test. I mean, this guy can win anybody over. But if you understand, it's all about the pursuit of power. This is a guy that will say anything and do anything to be in charge. His entire life has been about the ascension and the accumulation of political power. And you made a really good point in your open. It's not about making sure that they could rebuild Los Angeles. Not a matter of being able to deliver results for the people of the Palisades, not to be able to make sure that the schools of California are functioning. Right now, there is a bill that is going to head to Gavin Newsom's desk that would legalize some form of child kidnapping. Is AB 495 that is working its way through Sacramento right now. But Gavin Newsom, what he was like personally, is honestly someone that is super inauthentic and honestly fraudulent. You contrast that with President Trump, who I saw him the other day. He is the exact same person in private that he is in public. What you see in private, we get in public. There is no fakery. There is no inauthenticity. But we have to understand that this national fight that Gavin Newsom is trying to pick, by the way, who is he to say, well, Donald Trump missed the deadline? You're the governor of a failed state that has the greatest climate on the planet that is losing population. You have to actively try to get people to leave California. If anyone's leaving California, they're doing so unwillingly. If people are leaving California, that means you have turned it into a smoldering crater of its former self. And Gavin Newsom, he just wants to be the king of the ashes, even though California is an unrecognizable state of its current self.
Such a great point. You were gifted the Sierra Nevadas and the Pacific Ocean, the world's 5th largest economy, and you literally drove people out of your state.
A A few moments later.
They say that Border Patrol has arrived just outside of the downtown LA venue where Governor Gavin Newsom was actually holding a press conference today. And it appears that those Border Patrol agents are making arrests, illegal immigrants that I don't know if they were at this press conference, if they were in the area, but this is a very, as John put it when we first saw this video, a very in-your-face way to let, Democrats know that you are going to do your job, that you're going to carry out these Trump policies. Can you just respond to this video that we're watching right now?
Yeah, every single one of our ICE and Border Patrol operations is built on information, on investigative work. It's a case and an operation that has been planned because of who they think could be in that area and what they have for information that shows that there are illegal criminals there. Remember, we're focusing on the worst of the worst. So I don't know specific to what information that they had for that operation that they planned today, but it was based on the investigative work that all law enforcement officers do for every single operation they conduct to make sure that they're getting dangerous criminals off our streets.
Right, but as we saw last week, Secretary, there was a little bit of an in-your-face move where the Border Patrol were making arrests just to show California.
Not believe that this just happened to be a coincidence.
There is no way this was a coincidence. This was widely publicized that the governor and many of our other elected officials were having a press conference here to talk about redistricting, and they decided they were going to come and thumb their nose in front of the governor's face. Why would you do that? That is unbelievably disrespectful. It's a provocative act. They're talking about disorder in Los Angeles, and they are the source of the disorder in Los Angeles right now. This is just completely unacceptable. This is a administration, this is a Customs and Border Patrol that has gone amok. This absolutely has to stop. There was no danger here. There was no need to detain anyone here. And there was certainly no need to have a provocative act right here where the governor is having a press conference.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
We need to stop the raids. This should not be happening in our city. It is not warranted.
What the fuck is wrong with you? People working! Go arrest fucking criminals! What the fuck are you doing? I'm worried about this type of work!
Right behind you, brother.
You guys are fucking cowards! All of you are fucking cowards!
Watch out. You got another one with him? Keep it going.
Well done, gentlemen. Well done.
Greg, Mr. Bovino from Fox 11. Can I get a quick comment?
Hey, what's going on here?
How you doing? What happened?
We're here making Los Angeles a safer place. Since we won't have politicians that'll do that, we do that ourselves. So that's what we're here today, as you can see. Already making it a safer place. We're glad to be here, not going anywhere.
And the governor's inside right there.
I don't know where he's at.
He's about 100 feet behind us. Do you have any comment from him or anything?
Again,
any message?
We're making Los Angeles and California a safer place. We're going to continue to do that, and they can take that one to the bank and cash it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It was a comparison to 1992, which was completely 100% inappropriate.
Proclamation of a state of emergency for Los Angeles City.
We have no police support whatsoever.
This is not fair! This is not fair!
And I think the example that you use, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with it. It was from some other state.
Yes, Texas.
Yeah,
11.
I have no idea what happened in Texas.
What?
What I do know is what happened in Los Angeles.
But if you're not happy in the U.S., if you're complaining all the time, very simply, you can leave. You can leave right now. Come back if you want. Don't come back. It's okay too. But if you're not happy, you can leave.
When it's time to go, you can choose how. You can wait for enforcement, or you can leave on your terms. The CBP Home app lets you self-deport with dignity, directly and securely. Don't wait. Decide how it ends.
But we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison. How to run away. Don't run in a straight line.
Rub like this. And you know what? Your chances go up about 1%. Okay?